share the proposed theory as well in the theoretical and conceptual framework of my presentation. But here I would like to introduce that by analyzing the potential advantages and the risks associated with these advancements, this paper contributes to comprehend the role of the nanotechnologies, examining how these technologies may reshape geopolitical landscape, and potentially it can surpass the nuclear weapons in lethality as well. So the conceptual and the theoretical framework of my paper is based on this proposed theory that is actually proposed by me and Dr. Arif as well. And the theory is that the theory of the technological polarity and power transition. It is the amalgamation of the key aspects of the existing theories, international discourse, and AI literature, as I already said that. So the main objective to propose this theory is to comprehend the artificial intelligence, its broader implication, its character within the theoretical framework of the national power and the balance of power and the international order as well. So it projects the anticipated effect of AI on the new world order, and it gives idea of the polarity that must be considered seriously. The next part is that means that, as I said, that it is the amalgamation or it is a combination. So here I took this power transition theory in the international relation that actually suggests that the nation's capacity for the innovation and dominance in the technology industry is the key predictor of its capacity to achieve and maintain position of the superiority. And moreover, it also the prevailing narrative in the international relations. It also said that the emergence and the decline of the major power in the international system has frequently taken place in the context of the broader environment shaped by the technological advancement. And we have already experienced this thing that at the end of the Second World War, how United States of America they reinstated their supremacy and hegemony in the international affairs, and how they actually hijacked the whole discourse, all the course of the Second World War. So depending on how country accept and handles the impact of the technological advancement and its innovation, it could advance up or down the power ladder of the states as well. There are, as far as the AI approaches are concerned, there are two broader approaches that are symbolic, and the second is connectionist. The AI symbolic approach, it actually said that the algorithms operate through the deducing key behavioral pathway. On the other hand, the connectionist approach, it said that the trained algorithms, they used to solve the problems through calculations. So these are two different approaches, and in this regard, the algorithms learn to perform complex tasks through two prominent types of the learning as described in the programming. And there are two things related in the machine learning. It uses computational techniques such as decision making to feed information and rule to the algorithm. On the other hand, the deep learning relies on the neural network that functions much like a human and the animal brain to think and perform tasks such as image recognition. So this theory that we are proposing here today in this international conference, again, this is very, I feel pride and pleasure to share my theory in this conference, that this theory of technological polarity and power transition, it suggests that the rise and the fall of the state power in the international state system are increasingly driven by the state's ability to innovate and adopt the major disruptive technologies, this is important, and particularly general purpose of the technology like artificial intelligence, robotics, and nanotechnology. I will discuss later it in the question answer session, but briefly, this theory integrates the element of the technological logic and power transition theories and adaptation capacity theory to provide the comprehensive framework for understanding how AI reshapes geopolitical landscape. So moving on towards the key concepts, these are the key concepts of the theory. They are, means I list them here in this slide, that technological polarity, power transition, dynamics is there. Techno-economic growth is the most important concept of this theory. and emerging powers, shift in the global power. These are the existing and prevailing concepts in international relations. Then we have the decline of the established power, and the most important part is the adaptation capacity and the strategic adaptation of different proposals. So, moreover, the literature view of this presentation and this research is based that we know most of the extensively work has been done, and the numerous articles they talk about, they discuss about the field of the international relations and the security strategies. They talk about the consequences of the artificial intelligence. But what I feel the lacking and the gap in the existing literature of this particular field, where cyber security, where is the junction, where cyber security and international relations, they are combining. So we need to produce some kind of literature and kind of theory on this in this perspective as well. So despite the discourse highlighted the artificial intelligence and key sources in the great power competition, the broader influence of this technology on the overall distribution of the capability and the structure of the international system has not been adequately addressed. This is why I try to propose a new theory in the international relations. The goal is to determine how nation states technologically their capabilities influence its power status by analyzing the effects of the advancements in the nuclear and the space technology. In this regard, this paper looks for the factor related to the socio-economic structure and domestic politics of USA, China, Russia, particularly, and in journal the other emerging states like India and other regional powers, European countries as well, who are those which states are trying to excel in the robotics and AI and this cyber security technologies. So that may influence whether or not these nation states could use AI to strengthen their position of the dominance in the global order. And finally, this is an attempt to illustrate potential interaction between these characteristics within the changing geopolitical setting through scenario building. Research questions. These are the 5 research questions of this research, that how these emerging technologies reshape the geopolitical landscape. Can the integration of these geopolitical technology in the military capabilities effectively maintain the balance of power, or it would lead to another arm race, and it will contribute to amplify the non-traditional security threats in the international relations, particularly in the realm of the artificial intelligence. The third is why does the intersection of the nanotechnologies and AI introduce non-traditional security concern, and why posing a potential serious threat to the national security. The fourth is what is the essential for the responsible and the secure integration of this technology into the evolving dynamics of the international order. And the last is that why there is a need of the strategic planning, and what crucial role does international cooperation play in the mitigation potential of the potential threat. These are this is a little discussion about this, about how threat potential is created through this nanotechnology by integration into the weapons and into the military technology, that especially United States, United States, USA, China, and Russia, they recognize the benefit and the challenges of the AI, and they are reconciling their dominance. China, US, on one hand, they are benefited from the private sector as far as the new technology, emerging technologies are concerned, while Russia, they can exploit the US military might and hybrid warfare strategies to target weakness. On one hand, United States of America and China, they are well positioned to win the AI race. While if we talk about means this actually what I think that this AI, the arm race in artificial intelligence and induction of the robotics and emerging technologies in the weapon industry and in the army or the armed forces, that could lead to another bipolarity of the world. But this time the bipolarity is different in a way that during the Cold War era, there were two states which were having the two blocks. But this time, that is the probability that because of this arm race, there would be the two blocks which are headed by the uh, groups of the superpowers. Like if the military innovation and its impact on the war decides the outcome of the AI, the United States and the China, they are well positioned, and United States with its allies in the one block, and then Sino-Russian alliance leading the other one. So that time, if this arm race based on the AI and the emerging technologies, that could lead another bipolar world that would be led by the two groups of power. So this would be the reference this time. So how security implications of the nanotechnology and AI in the and machine learning. So number one, and means there on one hand there are international security implications, and on the other hand we have national security implications. So the implications are very much they are very much broad. We can see the cyber attacks, hacking, and then artificial intelligence. Defenders of the artificial intelligence system may possess vulnerability that could manipulate the malevolent actor, non-state actors as well. They can also play their role. Then automated system has the concern with the digital, physical, and political security as well. If the system pertaining to the nuclear forces are granted autonomy, that these issues would be raised at the national security level. And then again, at the international level, we have the security implications as well. So the findings of the research based on the questions, I can say that the proposed theory, it suggests that the state with the advanced technology and capabilities can achieve higher technological polarity, and so gaining strategic advantages that could surpass the lethality. This shift can lead to a new kind of arm race where technological superiority becomes the key determinant of the geopolitical influence. Then we have another, the next finding is that this theory indicate that such integration is likely to contribute to an other arm race, as I have told you, and particularly when it combined with the AI. So the rapid advancement and the adaptation of these technologies could amplify non-traditional security threats such as cyber warfare, lethal autonomous weapons systems, and the development of the drone technology and other. The next finding is that based on the question number 3, finding number 3 is that this theory, according to this theory, the convergence and increase the complexity and unpredictability of the threat. Because if we talk about the nuclear weapons, so they were just to deter the deterrents that were possessed by the state to deter each other. But this time, since there is the potential of the AI-driven nano drone cyber attacks and autonomous weapons, so both states and non-state actors, they possess serious threat to the national security. So this time, this new technology has the potential to operate in the gray zone, and it could operate, it could be the asymmetric war. So the next finding is that the research, this theory, this suggests that the responsible and the secure integration of the AI and the nanotechnology into the evolving dynamics of this of the new international order. Several elements are essential. Number one is strategic planning, the international cooperation, then robust governance framework and capacity building, and there must be more research and development must be there, means R&D must be there in the AI sector, how to control and how to mitigate the threat potential of these emerging technologies. The last is the international cooperation. Yes, it plays a crucial role in mitigating potential threats by establishing global norms and standards, promoting stability, coordinating responses at the global level, and then strategic planning and international cooperation as well. So that since this time, this threat potential is global in nature, so we need to address it at the universal level. All the states must be the part of this, And this is the conclusion that yes, major nations, including USA, China, Russia, and we know other regional hegemons, they are also they have been increasing their investment in AI research and development in an effort to make significant advancement in the field and try to dominate the global community. And AI present both advantages and disadvantages, and the applications are extensively used for the civilian purposes, but uh, that should not be overshadowed that their negative aspects are always there. The dual use of potential, which its civilian application being highly beneficial. And the last thing is that states would develop their own AI-based weapons, leading to the militarization of the AI and overshadowing its potential positive contribution must be there. And AI impact extend beyond the battlefield, altering various aspects of the human life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Khushboo. We will move on very quickly. Khushboo was presenting on the paper Nanotechnologies and AI Weapons, Evaluating Military and Non-Military Threats in the New International Order
I would
Global
like to
Order.
add one thing. I would welcome the critical evaluation of my proposed theory. So I would like to enhance
Okay,
the.
Khushboo. Okay, so now we have the
Thank you,
next
sir.
presenter, Dr. Amina Khan. She is from Institute of Strategic Studies in Islamabad, and she will talk about the rise of transnational terrorist groups and their impact on the global order. Over to you, Dr. Amina, please.
Thank you, G. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
All right. Okay. Well, first of all, let me just extend my gratitude to the Institute of Political Science, University of Murmia and Missouri in Poland, and of course the Department of International Relations at the Federal Urdu University of Art, Science and Technology, Karachi, for this opportunity. So, unlike Khushboo, I'm going to be presenting more of a policy approach towards the topic that I will be discussing, which is the rising role of transnational terrorist groups and what it means for the new international global order. Now, while terrorism itself, as we all know, it's not a new phenomena. It has ancient roots. But I think the rise of transnational terrorist groups is a relatively new manifestation, and this has significantly impacted global security and international relations. Now, the contemporary landscape of transnational terrorism is characterized by groups that operate across multiple countries and regions. While they may not necessarily be ideologically aligned, they do share common interests. And even if these interests are short-term or temporary, it is these temporary interests that create alliances, and as a result of which we see transnational terrorist groups presenting significant challenges to the global order. Now, in this aspect, I'm going to be focusing more on Afghanistan and its surrounding region. So keeping that in mind, the case of Afghanistan and its surrounding region is certainly no exception to this new evolving concept of transnational terrorist groups. And I think here it is very important to understand the rise of transnational terrorist groups in Afghanistan post-August 2021 and the emanating challenges that have significant implications for, of course, not only the evolving global, but I think more so regional order too, in terms of our context. Now, while Afghanistan, we all know during the past 2 decades or so, has faced immense challenges of its own, stemming from the presence of terrorist groups like Al Qaeda to the insurgency that has been waged by the Afghan Taliban for more than 20 years. It has only recently begun to be used as a safe haven by transnational terrorist groups. And this has primarily been possible due to the rise and presence of the Islamic State of Khorasan province. Now, as a branch of the overall Islamic State, or Daesh as it's more commonly known, the ISKP derives its name from the historical region of Khorasan, basically from South Asia, extending to Central Asia, which includes parts of modern day Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, somewhat moving towards the Indian subcontinent, and of course, Central Asia. Now, while the ISKP came to the Khorasan region as we know it in late 2014, it officially established itself in January 2015 as a terrorist group. And I think this is a distinction we need to make, that initially it came as a terrorist group and then later on it has expanded into a transnational terrorist group. Now, since 2015, the ISKP has made Afghanistan its so-called regional base, from where it has introduced new dimensions and dynamics to the regional and international terrorism landscape. However, I think, again, as I just mentioned, it is important for me to reiterate that the rise of the ISKP as a dominant transnational terrorist group in Afghanistan is a recent phenomenon and occurred post-August 2021. Now, primarily, the strategic objectives of the group and its composition lie in more of a regional phenomena in terms of its composition, because it is primarily composed of former Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan fighters, disaffected Afghan Taliban members, as well as other radical individuals from this region, including Central Asia. Now, the ISKP, like its parent organization, the IS, follows the Salafi Takfism under their, ideological leader, who has obviously is deceased now, but Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. And it aspires to establish a global caliphate, particularly in the Khorasan region. Now, its strategies include recruiting local and foreign fighters, conducting very high-profile attacks and exploiting sectarian divides to destabilize the region. And again, all these assets that I have explained, or the facets of the group, we have witnessed in this particular region. Now, since 2015, the ISKP has been a formidable terrorist group that has been responsible for some of the deadliest attacks, I have to say, that Afghanistan has witnessed. Because remember, it has been attacking Afghan civilians. It has always been attacking, since it came into inception in Afghanistan, the governments that were a part of the republic. It, of course, was attacking foreign forces. But more importantly, in the current context, it has been targeting the Afghan Taliban, because it has been in an ideological war with the Afghan Taliban in terms of their ideology, in terms of space, and of course, resources. And hence, the ISKP has and continues to pose significant challenges for the region as well as internationally. Now, post-August 2021, the ISKP has certainly been able to consolidate its power. And as a result, the ISKP has now assumed the role of a transnational terrorist group, where it has been, as I just mentioned, targeting Afghanistan itself, but as well as regional countries, particularly those that have been engaging with the new dispensation in Afghanistan, thus shifting again the dynamics of terrorism in Afghanistan and the overall region. Now, the ISKP's attacks, again, I stress, post-August 2021, show not only capability to execute sophisticated and deadly operations, not only within the country, but within the region as well. Now, it is interesting that the group, although it's small in number, and figures vary from 600 to 800 fighters, it is interesting that this figure has remained a constant, and they've been able to sustain their presence, and they've been able to cause significant damage. Moreover, their sophisticated use of social media, outreach in local dialects and languages, and more importantly, the ability to form regional alliances has allowed the group to not only stay as a formidable force, but it has also provided the group with a constant flow of recruits. And I think this is an important factor that has allowed the group to operate. Now, it's been operating on two fronts, domestically as well as externally. Domestically, as I mentioned, it's been currently targeting the Afghan Taliban, civilians, and it's used the sectarian divide to its advantage by attacking the Shia community as well as the Sikhs. And interestingly, it has attacked all those countries that have been engaging with Afghanistan, primarily. If you look at it, the first attack was on Russia, then it was on the Pakistani envoy in our embassy. Then, of course, the Iranians were attacked. There was an attack on the Chinese as well as on the Uzbeks. So it's very interesting to see how the ISKP is attacking those particular entities that are engaging with the Afghan Taliban. Now, externally, this is also very interesting. The ISKP, of course, as I mentioned, have used social media and online platforms very effectively to spread its ideology and, of course, recruit individuals, not only regionally, but more importantly, globally, if you look at their composition. Now, this transnational recruitment effort has led to an influx, naturally, of foreign fighters coming to Afghanistan, particularly from regional terrorist networks, such as, of course, the TTP, the ETIM, which is the East Turkmenistan Islamic Movement, which now has a subgroup, which is the Turkmenistan Islamic Party. And then you have other groups, such as the Islamic Movement of Uzbekistan, as well as a huge number of Tajiks that have been responsible for the major attacks that have taken place. Now, apart from the ETIM, they've also recruited a number of Uyghurs from the Xinjiang region of China. Now, this has further complicated, I think, regional security dynamics because they've been conducting attacks on those countries. Now, interestingly, the ISKP has also used the Muslim sentiment very cleverly to its advantage. Rather, I think it has exploited it by saying that, for example, the policies that the Chinese are implementing on the Uyghur population in Xinjiang, are not only un-Islamic, but of course they're contradictory to what China believes and they're derogatory. As a result of this, they've been able to recruit a number of Uyghurs into their movement. And of course, this poses long-term challenges for the global terrorism efforts. Now, very quickly, what has the impact been on regional and global security? Now, look, ISKP's activities have certainly elevated the global terrorism threat level. The group's ability, again, to attract foreign fighters and conduct large-scale attacks, similar to the one that we saw in Russia, further underscores its transnational terrorist threat. Now, while the attack in Russia should have prompted countries outside the region to not only enhance security measures, but also intelligence cooperation regionally as well as internationally, unfortunately, we do not see this taking place. It is important, again, I stress, to understand that events in Afghanistan do not remain limited to Afghanistan. Afghanistan is an area that has always had global significance and ramifications. Therefore, the threat posed by transnational terrorist groups, particularly the ISKP, should not be taken lightly. And today, the threat might seem limited to the region, but it is just a matter of time before the threat is extended onwards. And again, the attack that we saw in Russia is just a small manifestation of this. Now, what needs to be done? I think the approach is pretty simple. First, we have to, as in we means the international community, have to ensure that we do not repeat the mistakes of the past. First of all, I believe there has to be a regional approach. Look, I think it's high time for the region to take ownership, because at the end of the day, it's the region that is being targeted. And therefore, while we have seen Afghanistan's immediate neighbors have a consolidated approach towards the Afghan Taliban and the new dispensation, there is no coherent regional framework to engage with the Afghan Taliban, not just in terms of humanitarian assistance or economy, but it has to be counterterrorism. And I think this is missing. In fact, I've seen that since the Taliban have taken over, the Afghan Taliban have adopted a compartmentalized approach, where they're keeping certain countries happy and letting other security threats, move in a different direction. This approach, I think, is very unhealthy. It is naive and it is certainly disingenuous, because regional security threats should be treated collectively and no threat should be given precedence over the other. For example, the Afghan Taliban have been appeasing the Chinese, particularly in terms of the threat that has been emanating from the ETIM. And I think this is a very short-sighted approach. Therefore, there has to be a regional framework to engage with the Afghan Taliban, and the Afghan Taliban have to also reciprocate. And I think one potential framework that could work is the revival of the SCO contact group in Afghanistan. It includes all the immediate neighbors of Afghanistan, and of course, it deals with terrorism as well. So number one, the regional approach. Number two, internationally. Now look, since the Taliban took over in August 2021, I don't know whether you agree with me or not, but I think that we have seen the international community take somewhat of a backseat position, where they have only been engaging when necessary, and it always revolves around either the humanitarian assistance or when it comes to human women's rights. Now, while these are certainly important areas that need to be focused on, I think the relationship and engagement needs to move beyond that, and it has to include economic assistance, but more so counterterrorism. I feel that during the past 3 years, the international community has become somewhat comfortable with this current status quo because they seem to think that the threats emanating from Afghanistan are limited to the region. And they are more focused on what is happening in Ukraine or, for example, the US's policies towards China in the Indo-Pacific or unfortunate events taking place in Palestine. But again, these are mistakes that were made in the past where Afghanistan was pushed to the side. This should not happen. Therefore, and again, just let me add that the attack in Russia once again underscores the point that I'm making. Therefore, I think it's very important to go back to the Doha Agreement. We will be having Doha 3 taking place in the end of June, where the Afghan Taliban should be held accountable in terms of delivering on counterterrorism, number one. But at the same time, I think it's very important for the international community to move beyond their limited approach. How do we expect the Afghan Taliban to deliver counterterrorism when the international community is not willing to engage with them, let alone recognize them? Therefore, this approach is counterproductive, and it certainly does not help the region or the international community when it comes to dealing with counterterrorism. Therefore, it is very, very important, again, I will say, that the engagement has to extend. This does not mean recognizing the group, but it certainly means moving towards some sort of constructive engagement when it comes to counterterrorism. Because the fact is that the ISKP is still operating and it is creating havoc in Afghanistan and the region. And this shows their staying power. Therefore, there must be focus on strengthening legal and international frameworks for countering ISKP. Moreover, efforts must be on focusing on building Afghanistan's counterterrorism capacity. Whether it's done through UN resolutions, enhancing intelligence cooperation, or removing the financial sanctions that are on the current dispensation. Such measures have to be a part of a global and more broader strategy to combat ISKP and other similar groups. Now, again, let me reiterate that I am not saying that the Afghan Taliban should be absolved of their shortfalls when it comes to honoring women's rights, human rights, but unless and until there is no constructive engagement, again, I repeat, it'll be very difficult for us to expect the Afghan Taliban to deliver on the ISKP on its own. While the Afghan Taliban have certainly been able to achieve significant successes in certain areas, the fact that the ISKP is still there shows that this is a threat. And let me just point out that it should be important for us to realize that the Afghan Taliban have been targeted by the ISKP since August 2021. And according to official figures, around 48 mid and top level commanders have been killed by the ISKP. So this is an area, I think, where fighting the ISKP is a collective resolve for all of us. So before I conclude, let me just say once again that there has to be focus on a regional counterterrorism framework. There has to be an international effort for counterterrorism, which has to include constructive engagement with the Afghan Taliban. Why do I say this? Because, look, the Afghan Taliban did not come into power militarily. They came through a process. We can criticize how good or bad that process was, but that was the Doha Agreement, and it was endorsed by the international community and signed with the United States. Therefore, I think we need to move away from these contradictions and blurred lines when it comes to engaging with the Afghan Taliban. Also, on the Afghan Taliban's part, they have to treat counterterrorism as a collective problem. It is not just counterterrorism for the US or for China, it has to be overall. The Afghan Taliban must ensure that they deliver on this front, and they should not follow this compartmentalized approach, because I think this is the problem that is allowing the ISKP to flourish. So in conclusion, let me just say that the rise of ISKP in Afghanistan has had and will continue to have implications for the global order. The group's transnational terrorism activities have heightened global security threats, strained international relations. If you look at it regionally, they have exacerbated the humanitarian crisis already existing in Afghanistan. And of course, they have challenged existing counterterrorism strategies. Therefore, I think it is very, very important to address the ISKP threat. And this requires sustained international cooperation, robust counterterrorism measures, and comprehensive efforts to stabilize Afghanistan within the border region. Balancing, I think, these security needs with the protection of human rights and support for displaced populations is equally important. But these are critical challenges for the global community that need to be addressed. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amina Khan. She was presenting on the rise of transnational terrorist groups and their impact on the global order. We will move quickly ahead. We have the next speaker, Dr. Syed Sibtain Shah from University, and he will present on the resurrection of militant groups in Afghanistan, evaluating the role of non-state actor in the international order. Please, Dr. Shah, over to you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thanks you very much, Chair of the panel. Dear participants of the conference, I'm also grateful of the organizers of this conference. My topic is resurrection of militant groups in Afghanistan, evaluating the role of non-state actors in the new international order. The resurgence of militant groups in Afghanistan within the developing international order underlines complex and diverse role of non-state actors in influencing contemporary international dynamics. My paper aims to examine the factors linking to resurgence of militancy in Afghanistan and role of militant groups as non-state actors and implications of militancy in shaping new international order. The study covers time frame from 2021 to 2024 by tracing the role of militant groups such as Afghan Taliban, its associate groups like Haqqani Network, Al-Qaeda, and TTP, and rival group Islamic State Khorasan in resurgence of militancy in Afghanistan and their influence beyond the border of the country. The role of militancy in shaping the new international order in the aforementioned period has been significant and comprehensive, influencing global security dynamics, regional stability, and geopolitical placements. The key aspects of role of militant groups in Afghanistan are violent resurgence of these groups in spread of brutal militancy, violent extremism and terrorism, human rights abuses, and unfriendly impact on the country relations with international community and regional players. In this paper, I applied quantitative method to provide comprehensive understanding of the revival of militant groups in Afghanistan. Integrating multiple concepts allows for triangulation of data, validation of findings, and more holistic analysis of the research topic. As for conceptual understanding, the contemporary international order refers to current structure and dynamics of relations between and among the states and other actors in the global arena. It encompasses various elements including norms, institutions, alliances, and the power dynamics that shape interactions between and among the countries and influence the behavior of the state and non-state actors. Largely, the contemporary international order is characterized by complexity, dynamism, and uncertainty as the state navigates a rapid evolving global landscape shaped by competing interests, values, and the vision for future. Non-state actors refers to an individual, organization, or group that operate outside the domain of government control or authority, but still exerts influence on national and international affairs. Non-state actors such as non-governmental organizations, terrorist groups, corporations, and criminal organizations often play a significant role in shaping political, social, and economic dynamics, sometimes challenging the traditional power structure states. As for a theoretical perspective, the theory of transnationalism emphasizes the interconnection of actors across borders and the importance of non-state actors in shaping regional and global politics. In the context of Afghanistan, the transnationalist analysis might highlight the role of transnational militant networks such as Al-Qaeda, TTP, and ISK in exploiting the power vacuum and spreading violence beyond Afghanistan borders. Resurrection of militant groups in Afghanistan since 2021. In 2021, following the withdrawal of international forces and the Taliban took over of Afghanistan, several militant organizations have revived or increased their violent activities in the country. For instance, Afghan Taliban itself, it was a non-state actor, as a militant organization emerged as a dominant force in Afghanistan following the collapse of US-backed government in Afghanistan in August 2021. While the Taliban officials took control of the country, factions within the group and associated networks continued to engage in violence and insurgent activities in Afghanistan and outside of its borders. Basically, Afghan Taliban emerged as a non-state actors, mainly as a militant insurgent group opposing the Afghan government and presence of international forces in Afghanistan. Al-Qaeda is a transnational terrorist organization, has maintained its presence in Afghanistan despite of the years of US counter-terrorism efforts. The group has long ties with the Afghan Taliban and sought to take advantage on the Afghan return to power to reestablish itself in Afghanistan. Although this group has become very weak in Afghanistan, but death of Amina al-Zawahiri, its leader in the drone attack in Kabul in July 2022, verifies Al-Qaeda presence in Afghanistan. It means Afghanistan is still one of Al-Qaeda operational base, from where maintaining a low-profile setup, the group follows the Afghan Taliban directives concerning its activities for conducting external operations and recruitment. As for TTP, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Taliban, this is a Pakistani Taliban faction, has previously found safe haven in Afghanistan border regions and carried out a large number of the attacks against Pakistani military forces and civilians within the Pakistan territories. The group resurgence in Afghanistan following the Afghan Taliban took over has raised concerns about cross-border militancy and instability. Islamic State Khorasan Province, ISKP, an affiliate of Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, has been active in Afghanistan since 2015, while the main group ISIS faced significant difficulties and setbacks, including territorial defeats and leadership losses in Iraq and Syria in 2017 and 2018. It has continued to carry out brutal attacks and maintain presence in Afghanistan in 2021 and onward. These groups have exploited the power vacuum and instability in Afghanistan to expand their influence, recruit fighters, and carried out attacks against the government forces, civilians, and rival factions. So what are the factors of resurgency of militancy in Afghanistan in the period from starting in 2021 and 2024? Number one, weak governance and security. The collapse of previous Afghanistan government and the security forces contributed to a breakdown in governance and law enforcement, granting militant groups to exploit the resultant instability. The lack of effective governance and the security infrastructure created fertile ground for the militant activities, including recruitment, training, and planning of attacks. And number two, withdrawal of international forces. The weak authority of the previous Afghan government and withdrawal of international forces in 2021 created a power vacuum that allowed the Afghan Taliban to conduct a widespread militant operation that was started in May 2021 and that were completed with the fall of Kabul in August 2021. So that was also one of the factors. Another factor that is regional dynamics. Afghanistan geopolitical significance and its nearness to conflict disposed to regions such as Pakistan and Central Asia have made it a battleground for various regional actors seeking to advance their interests. Proxy conflicts, border disputes, and presence of transnational militant networks have fueled instability and militancy in Afghanistan. Another factor that is a socio-economic factor, widespread poverty, unemployment, and lack of economic opportunities have aggregated social grievances and provided fertile recruitment ground for militant groups, particularly among marginalized communities. Another factor that is ideological and religious factor. This is also very important. Militant groups in Afghanistan, including Afghan Taliban, Al-Qaeda, TTP, and ISKP, are driven by a specific extremist ideology that seek to establish a radical interpretation of Islamic governance. The ideological factors combined with religious expression and propaganda have increased recruitment and radicalization, especially among the vulnerable population. External support that is also very important for resurgence of militancy in Afghanistan. Militant groups in Afghanistan have generally received supports and financial support from external actors, including state-sponsored and transnational networks. Foreign fundings and weapon supply have enabled these groups to sustain their activities and expand their operations, further contributing to the resurgence in Afghanistan. Another factor that is a destabilization of Afghanistan. The militant groups such as Afghan Taliban, Al-Qaeda, TTP, and ISKP have played a central role in retaining violence and instability within Afghanistan. Their attacks on government forces, civilians, and rival factions have contributed to a climate of fear and insecurity, undermining the efforts to establish a stable and functioning state. Undermining state authority, that is also one of the factors of resurgency in Afghanistan. The presence and the activities of the militant groups in Afghanistan have challenged the authorities and the legitimacy of Afghanistan government, effectively undermining the state sovereignty. The instability of the government to assert control over a large part of Afghanistan has allowed these groups to establish a de facto control over the territory and population and further eroding the state authority. Impact so these are the implications which I'm reading out. Impact on regional security. Militant group based in Afghanistan, including TTP and ISKP, have also posed significant security threats to the neighboring countries and the border region, including Pakistan. We are witness in Pakistan that a large number of the attacks took place through different groups, including TTP and ISKP in Pakistan. So cross-border attacks, recruitment of the fighters and using weapons have fueled the regional instability and strained relations between Afghanistan and its neighbors, including Pakistan and Afghanistan relations, which were initially a good relation between Pakistan and Afghanistan in the start of Afghan Taliban group when they took power in Kabul. But nowadays, because of the large-scale violent activities of TTP, so relations are not good because Pakistan has concerns about the basis of TTP in Afghanistan. Geopolitical dynamics, the resurgence of militancy in Afghanistan could reshape geopolitical dynamics in the region and beyond. It could lead to shift in alliances and realignment of the interest and highlighting the competition among regional and global powers seeking to influence the outcome in Afghanistan. For instance, Iran, once it was enemy to the Afghan Taliban, nowadays they have very friendly relations. Pakistan and Afghan Taliban, they had a good relation, but nowadays their relations are not good. So these are the rapid changes which are also influencing the international world order. For another implication, one of the implications that is the counter-terrorism efforts, the revival of militancy in Afghanistan could undermine global counter-terrorism efforts by providing safe havens and support network for terrorist organizations. This could necessitate renewed the international cooperation and the coordination to address the threats of terrorism emanating from region, impacting security strategies and priorities of the countries around the world. Some of other implications which could be included global terrorism concerns and also challenges to the multilateralism and humanitarian crisis. Humanitarian crisis, that's very important. It is also one of the important concerns of the European Union because if we look over the relations between Afghanistan and the European Union during the previous government and if we compare with the Afghan Taliban, so their diplomatic relations are not good so far. They have limited their diplomatic missions and diplomatic activities toward Afghanistan because of the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan since 2021. The activities of the militant groups have intensified an already awful humanitarian situation in Afghanistan, leading to widespread displacement, loss of life, and limited access to essential services. Civilians face violence, with millions to need of humanitarian assistance and protection.
Sir, please conclude your
It's
presentation.
concluding. I'm in the conclusion now. The largely revival of the militancy in Afghanistan has potential to disrupt the new international order by fueling instability, intensifying the humanitarian crisis, reshaping geopolitical dynamics, and undermining global efforts to combat terrorism and promote peace and security. Exclusively, the role of militant groups as a non-state actor in Afghanistan has had far-reaching consequences for new international order, encompassing international and regional security, global counterterrorism efforts, and the ability of the state to uphold their authority and protect their population. Handling these challenges will require sustained diplomatic efforts, multilateral cooperation, and comprehensive strategies that address the root causes of conflict and instability in Afghanistan and broader regions. Addressing causes of the militancy and instability in Afghanistan could be resulted to sustain international cooperation, comprehensive peace-building efforts, and a commitment to averting the factors that fuel conflicts and violence. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Our next presenter is Mohammad Faisal Sadiq. His topic is non-traditional maritime security in the global south and challenges for blue order connecting the dots. Over to you, Faisal Sadiq.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I hope you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, we can hear you. Please be brief in your presentation. We are getting late. Okay, we have another session.
Roy, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, my screen is shared.
No, not yet. Yes, it is now.
Roy, sir, giving me the
You move
opportunity
on to
to speak here on this forum. I will be very quick, sir. Sir, my this is just an
Faisal,
introduction.
Faisal, we cannot view your presentation. PPT, we cannot view it. Maybe due to the connection problems, your signals are quite weak. Maybe. Okay, you can move on. No issue. You can move on.
Roy, sir.
Faisal, you can move on. If you are facing any problem, any trouble in sharing the PPT, maybe due to the signal issue, you can move on. We can hear you, please.
Right. Sir, what I have prepared my presentation in a way that it will be good if I can. Just a second. I'll be sharing it again so that it will work. I
Faisal, if
believe
you are
so now.
facing... Okay.
Sir, it
Now
is
it's
with respect
working.
to the global south has emerged as a no, sir, as a dynamic region and grappling with the significant geographies and jeopardizing the economies and volatile politics, vulnerable human security, and a surge in the maritime activities, from fishing and to the seaborne trade to the extraction of natural resources like oil, gas, and minerals. The nature of these maritime endeavors is largely socio-economic. So, the addressing the threats or to the marine security has become the central concern due to the economies of these states. So what sir, next is the this global south dynamics, and the it covers most of the things as I've discussed earlier. The maritime activities, importance, security shift, the non-traditional maritime security threats in the global south, and the challenges to the blue order with a focus on the relationship between NTMS threats and the blue order. This is the focus of the research. Sir, the maritime paradigm shift in maritime security has been observed from traditional to non-traditional security in the Cold War era, and definitely because of that, the challenges have evolved. So, from the traditional security national security, the threats have changed, and they 71% of the earth is the water. So the blue order or order at sea has been changed. So that is why what I have done is I have mentioned the range of threats which are there at sea. These are the natural disasters, environmental degradation, accidents to vessels, poaching, and IUUF, which is the unreported, illegal, unreported fishing, smuggling and trafficking, piracy, transnational organized crimes, and cyber threats. And the complexity involved in all these things is the interconnected threats, overlapping issues requiring coordinated responses. So this is the pursuit for the blue order, that we should have a normative framework, state-led efforts, and collaborative approach. These are the three factors which I have found out during the course of research, that if these factors are brought in together, then the blue order can work. So this is a more simplified form, which you can see on the screen, that for the blue order, we need the framework, and the importance is that the global security and economic impact is there. So this is universal for either it is global north or it is global south. So the socio-economic implications of the maritime security threats are economic disruption, resource depletion, governance challenges, and human security impacts. If we look into the evolving role of the states and non-state actors, which are one of the challenges which we come into force once we are talking about the non-traditional security, are the governmental actors, international institutions, non-state actors, and academic and the research. These are the four pillars which can, if they evolve, then the role of state and non-state actors will improve. So while looking at the enforcement, the maintaining of the blue order and its enforcement part, it has challenges and it has some constraints as well, as mentioned on the slide. So the potential scenarios and the future of the maritime security depends on the technological advancements, collaborative governance, and sustainable development. And if we see that the global south is typically the refers to the regions that are less economically developed and are located primarily in the southern hemisphere. So Latin America and the Caribbean, African, Asian, Oceania, and the examples are given of the countries which form the global south. The characteristics are the economic development, political stability, human security, maritime activities. These are the major characteristics. And the global south is contrasted with the global north, which includes more economically developed regions such as North America, Europe, and parts of the East Asia, that is Japan and South Korea. And the distinction is not strictly geographical, but also reflect the socio-economic and political realities. And as we have learned through the history that Japan and South Korea are in the global north and they are part of it because of the reasons known to us. So, so far, there are in next four slides, what global south has to offer in terms of economics. These are the natural sources, level force, and markets. Number two, in terms of political influence, it is the international organizations and South-South cooperation. So these two things have effects on many other countries. That is the organizations at the United Nations or the World Trade Organizations and other bodies as well, like African Union, the ASEAN, or in the South-South cooperation, there are BRICS is there, and the other forums are also there. So if we come to the strategic significance, the geopolitical importance is there, and the military alliances and bases are also there. I just briefly touched that the Malacca Strait, Suez Canal, these are the major geopolitical importance areas in the global south. And then with respect to the military bases, Djibouti has these unique significance in which the US base is there, the Russian base is there, and the Chinese base is also there. So all the Djiboutis encompassing all these three major powers at one place. So this is the importance which we are talking about. In terms of environmental and human security, there are climate changes are there, and the development goals are also being focused in the global south. The cultural diversity, migration, and diaspora, they are also the part of it. The challenges and opportunities for global south are the economic inequality. These are the challenges: political instability, human rights issues, vulnerability to global economic shocks, and environmental crisis. And the opportunities for them are the potential for economic growth and development, integration into the global economy and political systems. These are the case studies which I'm showing you that what I have studied through all this while going into the details, that the Somali piracy, it has died down. However, it has come up again and it is affecting a lot. And the South China Sea dispute, recently we had seen that there was a dispute which has sparked again between the Philippines Coast Guard and the Chinese Coast Guard. And the Western African Union, there are the economic and environmental consequences with respect to the illegal fishing. And the analysis of these three is from the secondary data, the reports, academic studies, and institutes, and its impact, evaluating the economic, environmental, and security effects. So all these case studies, they end up into the non-traditional maritime security threats and their impact on the blue water as analyzed in these studies. So jurisdictional issues, there are three main points: jurisdictional issues, resource constraints, and coordination. These points I have come to the conclusion that these are the major which turn into the problems of the national, into the non-traditional maritime security threats and having the direct impact on the blue water. So towards the conclusion, I must say that evolving military security landscape in the global south presents a complex and multifaceted challenges that demands a comprehensive, collaborative, and forward-looking approach. So they have to have a collaboration, and then they can share the global south issues with respect to the maritime security by addressing the non-traditional security threats, safeguarding the blue water, and fostering sustainable development. And the states of stakeholders in the global south can build a more resilient and secure maritime future that supports the economic prosperity, environmental sustainability, and well-being of the coastal communities. So these are the important things which I have concluded. So through continued research, the policy innovation and international cooperation, the goals of a stable, prosperous, and in the maritime domain can be realized, contributing to the overall development and the security of the global south. With this, I thank you all.
Thank you very much, Dr. Faisal Sadiq sir. Now the next presenter is Zurab from Georgia. He will present on a topic of navigating the post-global landscape, challenges, threats, and strategies for the new international order. Over to you, Zurab.
Thank you, dear colleagues, for inviting me in this brilliant conference. And it's an honor for me to be a part of your activity. So my colleagues told a lot about the challenges and threats of our global order, international order. So I concentrated on the strategies, so it will be interesting for discussion. So my statement is for the following. The Russian invasion of Georgia marked the beginning of a new era of global confrontation, which has since expanded dramatically with the conflict in Ukraine, in the Middle East, and global, in Africa and global. These events have highlighted the urgent need to rethink and reform international law and governance structures to address regional and global security threats effectively. One significant proposal is the transformation of international law into a system of territorial branches. This approach advocates that regional issues should primarily be resolved by the countries directly affected by them. Such decentralization would empower regional actors to address and manage conflicts and disputes more efficiently and with great sensitivity to local context. In this reimagined framework, the United Nations Security Council should be convened only during active conflict situations. Moreover, to ensure impartiality and fairness, no country involved in a conflict should hold membership in the Council during its deliberations on that specific conflict. The measures aims to prevent conflicts of interest and promote unbiased decision making. Another critical component of this new international order involves the management of global resources. All resources should be traded through an international organization, ensuring that the benefits are used for common development. This system would promote equitable distribution of wealth and resources, fostering global stability and prosperity. Technological advancement should also be guided by international cooperation. By organizing common technological development initiatives through international partnerships, countries can share knowledge, reduce duplication of efforts, and address global challenges collectively. The control and prohibition of nuclear weapons is another cornerstone of this strategy. An international organization should oversee the regulation of nuclear arsenals with a strict prohibition on their use on Earth. This measure would significantly reduce the risk of catastrophic nuclear conflicts and enhance global security. Furthermore, arms control and trade should not be left to private companies or individual governments. Instead, an international organization should regulate the arms trade, ensuring it occurs in equal proportions and under strict oversight. This approach would help prevent the escalation of conflicts fueled by regulated arms sales and ensures that weapons are distributed and in a controlled and responsible manner. In conclusion, navigating the post-global landscape requires a comprehensive and collaborative approach to international law and governance. Now, by empowering regional actors, ensuring impartial conflict resolution, promoting equitable resource distribution, fostering technological cooperation, and strictly regulating arms and nuclear weapons, the international community can build a more secure, just, and prosperous world. I understand that this is a very idealistic statement, but otherwise we faced on very big and destroyful, catastrophic. We have a lot of threats. We have a lot of wars. We have a lot of hates in the heart of people. Everyone want to. I don't know why, but they want destroy each other, and that is not pragmatic and not logic. But okay, thank you very much, and that's I think that's enough for us today.
Okay, thank you, Zurab. Thank you very much. And now this is the question answer session. We will take some questions. The first question will be from Dr. Amina Khan. She will respond. The question is, what if Taliban want to collaborate with ISKP to counter the terrorism? What could be ISKP's demands, or how should the Taliban tackle it? Should they fight them, or there are better ways as well? Please.
Okay, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
All right. Well, first of all, I think, as I mentioned in my presentation, the Afghan Taliban have clearly said that they do not want to collaborate with the ISKP. As I mentioned, they're both, they have been in a war of influence and ideology when when the ISKP initially came to Afghanistan, primarily because the ISKP has a completely different ideology and outlook. The ISKP, as I mentioned before, is a Salafist group. It believes in a global caliphate, which is not just limited to Afghanistan. And Khorasan is just one section of that overall global caliphate. And also they believe in their leader, Baghdadi. Whereas the Afghan Taliban do not believe in a global caliphate. They are from the Deobandi school of thought, and they believe that their mission or objective or movement is limited to the liberation of Afghanistan from foreign forces, which they have done. So I don't think that there is any room for collaboration between the two. If anything, this divide is going to increase. And as I mentioned, since 2015, both have been in a battle against each other, for ideology, for influence, for resources. And Afghanistan, unfortunately, has become the battleground for these two opposing groups. So the only logical suggestion, in my opinion, is to empower the Afghan Taliban to be able to fight against the ISKP, which is a global threat and phenomena. The ISKP is extremely radical. And therefore, this is the only solution, that you have to empower the Afghan Taliban in such a way that they are able to encounter the ISKP, because collaboration is completely out of the question. Collaboration would mean accepting the global caliphate, which isn't doable. I was trying to be short because I know we're short on time. Hello?
Dr. Sibtain, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, the next question is from you. Iram, she wants to ask that what would be the tentative role of the United States in Afghanistan in the context of industrialization? Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. This is a very interesting question, but it is out of my topic about the industrialization of Afghanistan, sponsored by United States of America. United States of America is, if you look about the relations between Afghan Taliban and United States of America, after the US withdrawal, US interest in Afghanistan have been decreased, and there is critical relations between Afghan Taliban and United States of America. So There is no question about the industrialization of Afghanistan by United States of America.
Okay. Any other questions which would like to ask by the participant? Anyone?
Yes, I have a question for Dr. Amina. I have a question about her presentation about transnational actors. So I have a question. Okay, Shanghai Cooperation Organizations have some main goals: extremism, terrorism, and separatism. What do you say about SEO? Has SEO failed to counter these kind of challenges in regional level, especially in Afghanistan? And because recently, some Tajik people attacked on Moscow. So, what do you think about SEO has failed, or SEO is inactive or non-collaborative approach? What do you think about?
Okay. Well, first of all, the SEO is very active, but they have a special contact group on Afghanistan, which is the SEO contact group on Afghanistan. And that has been inactive since the Afghan Taliban took over in Afghanistan. But it's still intact, but it is not active. And if you remember in the last SEO meeting, Foreign Minister Lavrov of Russia said that there was need to revive the contact group because it deals with all these facets that you've just mentioned regarding terrorism. So work is being done on this aspect, but I think there has to be a larger push, and that is why I said that the regional framework is essential. You know that in the SEO, they also have the framework of Regional Anti-Terrorism Cooperation Structure, RATS, that can also be utilized. And it's interesting to note that Afghanistan, by the way, was an observer member of the SEO post-August 2021. So this is where, when I was saying that the international community and regional countries need to move beyond, the fine line of recognition and engagement, is to engage with the Afghan Taliban and bring them back into the SEO structure. I hope that answers your question.
Arif, we are not hearing you.
Thank you, Dr. Amina, for the response. Anyone else which he or she would like to ask a question from any panelist?
I think
no one. Okay. Okay, so we move on to the today's the summarization of this panel. Summary of the papers presented today in this panel. The first of all, by Khushboo Farid, which was the joint work of Khushboo Farid and myself. The paper Nanotechnologies and AI Weapons Evaluating Military and Non-Military Threats in the New International Order and Global Power Relations is our joint work presented by Khushboo Farid, an in-depth analysis of how advancement in nanotechnologies and artificial intelligence are transforming military capabilities and posing new non-military threats. We tried to use eclectic approach. Our work highlighted the dual-use nature of these technologies and the urgent need of international regulatory frameworks to manage their proliferation and application. Then the second paper was presented by Dr. Amina Khan. In her presentation, she talked about the rise of transnational terrorist groups and their impact on the global order. Dr. Khan examined the increasing influence of transnational terrorist organizations such as Al-Qaeda, ISKP, ATIM, TTP, and their ability to destabilize nations and regions. Besides, she also talked about the constructive engagement with Taliban to deal with the menace of terrorism. She also emphasized on multi-pronged strategy at domestic, regional, and international level. Moreover, Dr. Khan emphasized on the importance of a coordinated global response as well. The third presenter, Dr. Syed Sibtain Hussain Shah, he talked about the resurgence of militant groups in Afghanistan, evaluating the role of non-state actors in the new international order. He focused on the resurgence of militant groups in Afghanistan and in their implications for regional and global security. He was focusing on the factors of emergence of Taliban, such as governance issues, withdrawal of troops in August 2021, regional dynamics, and socio-economic issues within Afghanistan. He also provided a detailed analysis of the factors driving this resurgence and the challenges posed by unknown state actors in the evolving international order. Then the fourth presenter, Mohammad Faisal Sadiq, his presentation was on the non-traditional maritime security. the Global South, and challenges for Blue Order, connecting the dots. He explored the critical issues surrounding maritime security. In the Global South, Sadiq highlighted the threats posed by piracy, illegal fishing, and territorial disputes, and emphasized the need for comprehensive maritime security strategies to ensure the stability of the Blue Order. And our last presenter, Zurab, he was talking about navigating the post-global landscape challenges, street threats, and strategies for the new international order, provided a broad overview of the geopolitical and economic shifts shaping the post-global landscape. He discussed the challenges and strategies necessary to navigating the new reality, emphasizing the role of international cooperation and innovative collaboration. In conclusion, today's panel has underscored the multifaceted nature of the threats facing by the establishment of a new international order. The insights and analysis provided by our presenters offer valuable perspective on how to address these challenges effectively. I would like to thank all the presenters for their excellent contributions and the audience for their questions and active participation. It is through such scholarly exchanges that we can develop a deeper understanding of the complexity of our world and work towards a more secure and cooperative global future. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. Arif. Okay, we have another meeting, so thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.